Salve Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus and his disciples left from there and began a journey through Galilee, but he did not wish anyone to know about it. He was teaching his disciples and telling them, "The Son of Man is to be handed over to men, and they will kill him. And 3 days after his death, the Son of Man will rise." But they did not understand the saying, and they were afraid to question him. They came to Capernaum. Once inside the house, he began to ask them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" But they remained silent, for they had been discussing among themselves on the way who was the greatest. Then he sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "If anyone wishes to be first, he shall be the last of all and the servant of all." Taking a child, he placed it in their midst, and putting his arms around it, he said to them, "Whoever receives one child such as this in my name receives me, and whoever receives me receives the one who sent me." The Gospel of the Lord. Just in case you were in your pre-caffeine slumber at the first reading, I want to announce that a little bit more again. My son, so this doesn't apply to the women. My son, when you come to serve the Lord, prepare yourself for trials. How do you like that for a recruiting poster? St. John says it also in John 16. "In the world you will have trouble, but take courage, I have conquered the world." And 2 Timothy says, "All who want to live righteously in Christ will be persecuted." Isn't that fantastic? Difficulty and hardship, okay? Why? Why would that be? Because when it comes time to take care of the little ones, it's difficult. How many of you found it easy with your babies every day? Nobody raised their hand. Isn't that interesting? Okay. And so when Jesus picks up this little child and he says, "Whoever receives a child such as this in my name receives me," I was thinking about all these advertisements for food assistance to the world, and especially the ones that talk about children. And you see, a little baby with totally emaciated, holding an empty bowl, and I just couldn't get that picture out of my mind. And yet it's beautiful. Whoever started using that kind of motif to advertise obviously read this gospel, because it speaks well of those who are in need, and especially it picks our heart at those who are most in need, would be the defenseless children. So when I was reading that, though, however, I said to myself, Jesus didn't just put a check in the mail. He became one of those little children. When he entered the womb and when he went into the manger, he became one of those little children. He became one of us. Jesus became the epitome of the hungry child poster boy. And yet at the same time, we're reminded here today that you are Jesus because of your baptism. And so we must be compelled to identify with the littlest ones. If anyone wants to be first, he shall be the last of all and the servants of all. And so Jesus, becoming even as lowly as a child who was a child was considered among the epitome of what the Hebrews would call the anoim, the ones most needy. Jesus enters into this reality with us. And so he becomes the servant of the servants, but not only that, he becomes the most despicable and the most poor on the cross, kissing lepers, washing feet, washing toilets. Perhaps we could use that analogy for us. You are Jesus, and there's no person for us as Christians too low to receive. And that's where the rubber hits the road, because there's some people we would like to not minister to. There are some people that we would like not to care for. We have to be cautious of that, especially in our own households and in our own parish, our own church. And perhaps we could say that when we talk about Sirach, and he says, when you come to serve the Lord, prepare yourself for trials. My most difficult trouble is not necessarily people persecuting me. I'm sorry if I must confess. My most difficult trouble is to clear the way to take care of a person who might be coming at the most inconvenient time. I'm sure none of you have that problem. And yet, it's a struggle. But at the pearly gates, we will all be standing as a little child with an empty rice bowl, asking the master if we could have something to eat. And we will be depending as little children on the generosity of Christ. And yet, strangely enough, because you are Christ, you are both on the giving end and the receiving end. On the giving end, because we are Christ, and we must give as he gave. And on the receiving end, because there are times when we become as destitute as he is on the cross, and we must be recipients of the care of others, and especially the care of the grace of Christ.
Regina Celi, letare, alleluia, qui